to explore some of the more kind of classical Italianate repertoire.
In 2012, a shy, overweight teenager stepped onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent, trembling, awkward, and visibly nervous. His name was Jonathan Antoine. Within seconds, that same boy silenced a nation. His voice, deep, pure, and overflowing with emotion, stunned millions, including Simon Cowell. But behind the viral fame and standing ovations lay years of hidden pain. Jonathan's life had been shaped by childhood bullying, isolation, and a long battle with self-worth. For decades, he carried a secret that even fame couldn't erase. Only years later did the world learn that beneath the golden voice was a man who had been fighting an invisible battle, one that made his triumph all the more extraordinary. The boy from Essex in the early struggles, Jonathan Antoine was born on January 13, 1995, in Chigwell, Essex, a quiet middle-class area that seemed far removed from hardship. But for Jonathan, life inside that peaceful suburb was anything but easy. From the age of 4, he became a target of bullying. Children threw food at him in the cafeteria, mocked his size, and left him feeling like he didn't belong anywhere. Even teachers would sometimes find him crying alone. His parents, Julie and John, loved him deeply, but felt powerless to protect him from cruelty. To cope, Jonathan turned inward, finding comfort in sound. He began humming melodies to himself, long, emotional tunes that no one taught him. His mother later revealed that when the world became too loud, Jonathan composed music in his head to survive the silence of pain. Those early years would shape both his art and his empathy. A gift hidden in the pain. By the time Jonathan turned 6, it was clear he was no ordinary child. He possessed perfect pitch, the rare ability to identify or recreate any note without reference. Only 1 in 10,000 people have it, yet Jonathan's extraordinary gift went unnoticed for years. His weight had become the focus of attention instead. By age 6, he weighed nearly 95 pounds, twice what he should have. Bullies called him names, and the more they ridiculed him, the more he ate for comfort. At 10, he weighed over 150 pounds and had already developed depression. Doctors eventually diagnosed him with trauma-induced hyperphagia, an eating disorder triggered by emotional distress. Yet even amid this struggle, Jonathan's brain worked in remarkable ways. He could hear an opera once and remember every note. Unknowingly, he was showing signs of musical savant syndrome, a condition that allowed his mind to process music with photographic precision. The day his voice was discovered. The turning point came unexpectedly. One ordinary school day, a substitute teacher named Mrs. Williams held choir auditions. Jonathan tried to hide in the back, terrified of being noticed. But when he finally opened his mouth, the room froze. His voice, powerful, resonant, mature, sounded like it belonged to a trained adult tenor. Mrs. Williams was stunned. She later described it as Pavarotti trapped inside a child's body. That moment changed everything. Within weeks, Jonathan was singing solos meant for grown performers, filling halls without a microphone. His voice reached 95 decibels, strong enough to fill a theater. Music educators soon called him one of the most important young discoveries in British vocal training. For the first time in his life, Jonathan wasn't being laughed at. He was being applauded. For a boy who had only ever felt invisible, that sound of recognition became his first taste of freedom, rising talent and early recognition. At 15, Jonathan entered the Stratford and East London Music Festival. Standing 5 feet tall and weighing nearly 300 pounds, he didn't look like the other competitors. His rival, Victoria Sterling, had already sung at the Royal Opera House. But when Jonathan began Nessun Dorma, the audience of nearly 2,000 rose to their feet. The ovation lasted more than 4 minutes. Judge Sir David Wilcox gave him 98 out of 100, the highest score in the event's history. That victory earned him not only a prize, but a sense of belonging. Soon after, he was accepted into the Royal Academy of Music's junior program, one of just 23 chosen out of thousands. Despite his nerves, his audition was flawless. The Academy even waived the fees when his mother revealed their financial struggles. Jonathan's weekends were filled with 10-hour training sessions, discipline, theory, and opera. For once, his voice was his protection, the duo that changed everything. In 2011, Jonathan's life took another unexpected turn when his music teacher, Jenny Ewington, paired him with a confident classmate named Charlotte Giaconelli. She was outgoing and fearless, everything Jonathan was not. Their first duet, The Prayer, stunned everyone in the room. Their voices intertwined with perfect harmony, his rich tenor balancing her bright soprano. But it wasn't easy. Jonathan often had panic attacks before performances and hid in the bathroom. Charlotte would gently coax him back to the stage. Between February and April 2012, the pair performed at over 20 local events, churches, weddings, and community halls, slowly building confidence. When Charlotte insisted they audition for Britain's Got Talent, Jonathan resisted, afraid of national ridicule. But she refused to give up. At the last moment, she submitted their application. It was a decision that would forever change both their lives and introduce Jonathan to the world. Britain's Got Talent, the audition that stopped time. On that spring day in 2012, Jonathan and Charlotte stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage. Jonathan, just 17, looked nothing like a star, shy, messy-haired, and visibly anxious. Before he sang a note, Simon Cowell muttered a cruel remark, "Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse." It was a moment of judgment based purely on appearance. But seconds later, Jonathan began to sing The Prayer, and the world fell silent. His voice soared through the auditorium, powerful, emotional, transcendent. The audience erupted into tears and applause. Simon's jaw dropped. Moments later, he compared Jonathan to Luciano Pavarotti himself. The audition went viral, amassing millions of views within days. Overnight, the bullied boy became a global sensation. But beyond the fame, something deeper happened. For the first time in his life, Jonathan felt seen not for how he looked, but for who he truly was. From pain to power, the solo journey. At just 19, Jonathan became the youngest tenor ever to top the UK classical albums chart. His solo debut, Tenore, reached #1 and even broke into the UK pop charts. Critics called him a voice beyond his years. Soon, opera legend Placido Domingo invited him to perform at the iTunes Festival, a sign of deep respect from one of the world's greatest voices. Jonathan followed his success with Believe and Going the Distance, a concept album recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. It told his life story through music, hope, loss, and triumph. By 2020, his PBS special showcased his full artistic evolution. No longer a nervous teenager, but a commanding performer. Jonathan's strength now came not from escaping his past, but from embracing it. Every song he sang carried traces of the boy who once hid behind his voice to survive. The hidden truth, autism and acceptance. In 2023, Jonathan shared a secret that reframed his entire story. During an interview in Australia, he revealed that he had been diagnosed with autism just after his 27th birthday. The revelation was both shocking and healing. For decades, Jonathan had struggled with anxiety, overstimulation, and emotional exhaustion without understanding why. Fame had magnified those struggles. The interviews, the crowds, the constant pressure to appear confident. The diagnosis gave him clarity, not shame. "It felt like I'd spent 28 years in the dark," he admitted. His openness inspired thousands. On World Autism Awareness Day, he wrote that understanding himself was the first step toward true peace. Since then, he's become an advocate for neurodiversity and mental health, using his platform to encourage others to seek understanding, not judgment. The truth that once scared him became his greatest source of strength, proof that even the most gifted souls can carry unseen battles. Transformation and legacy. Jonathan's journey was never about perfection. It was about resilience. After years of public struggle with his weight, he lost over 70 pounds, managed a thyroid condition, and found balance between health and art. His later collaborations, including By Request, the Diane Warren Songbook, showcased a mature artist unafraid to experiment beyond opera. But beyond the albums and accolades, Jonathan's legacy lies in his courage to be vulnerable. He turned ridicule into reverence, pain into poetry. His voice remains a reminder that true power doesn't come from flawless performance, but from authenticity. The fragile boy from Essex who once sang to calm his tears became a man whose music calms millions. His story teaches that every broken note can still create a masterpiece, and that the most beautiful voices often rise from silence.